He sat in front of a camera, looked directly into the lens, and told the world exactly what was happening behind the closed doors of the entertainment industry. Nobody believed him. They called him eccentric. They called him a contrarian. But years later, the dominoes he described began to fall precisely where he said they would. We are witnessing a massive shift in how public figures operate, a moment where the carefully constructed walls of the entertainment elite are completely dissolving. It didn't start with a sudden headline or a single press conference. It started with a film that the biggest media conglomerate on Earth tried to make sure you never saw. In 2018, an independent production called Sound of Freedom wrapped filming. It starred an actor known for taking on intense, polarizing roles, and it was backed by a standard distribution deal. Then, a massive corporate merger happened. Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, and the completed film suddenly vanished. There was no press release, no delayed scheduling, just total silence. For 5 years, the filmmakers fought to buy back the rights to their own project. Corporate executives claimed it simply got lost in the shuffle of a massive multi-billion-dollar merger. But in an industry where every asset is maximized for profit, letting a completed film sit in a vault for half a decade makes absolutely no financial sense. When the film was finally released independently on July 4, 2023, it did something the major studios thought was impossible. It brought in over $14 million on its opening day alone, outperforming legacy blockbuster franchises with 10 times its budget. It eventually pulled in $251 million globally. The public bypassed the traditional gatekeepers completely. But the real story wasn't just happening in movie theaters. During production on location in Colombia, the reality of the subject matter bled directly onto the set, with actual underground networks operating openly near the film crew. The lead actor warned that what they uncovered on the ground was just the surface of a deeply embedded global network that legacy media spent years trying to downplay as mere fiction. The media machine quickly tried to label the project a dangerous conspiracy theory, but the timeline was already moving too fast. By the time January 2024 arrived, the unsealing of high-profile legal files changed the entire conversation. Names from entertainment, finance, and politics were suddenly exposed to public record. The very same media figures who had stayed completely silent on the real-world issues exposed by independent cinema were suddenly staring at their phones as journalists combed through millions of pages of evidence released by the Department of Justice through early 2026. These weren't internet rumors anymore. They were verified communication logs, flight manifests, and corporate newsletters detailing exactly who was paying attention to whom behind the scenes. This brings us to the moment the public started connecting the dots back to a legendary comedy interview from early 2024. When Katt sat down for his explosive podcast appearance, he didn't just air personal grievances. He described a functional corporate apparatus designed to enforce silence. He spoke about turning down massive multi-million-dollar contracts specifically to keep his independence, warning that major industry backing often requires a form of personal compliance that strips public figures of their integrity. He explicitly predicted that 2024 would be the year of exposure for industry deviants, a prediction that materialized with shocking accuracy as major music and television tycoons faced federal indictments and subsequent convictions over the next 2 years. The pattern of enforcing silence against those who step out of line stretches back decades. Consider the severe professional fallout faced by figures like Anne Heche in the late 1990s. When she attempted to speak out about the reality of the Hollywood power structure and the overwhelming push for massive financial accumulation over personal ethics, the retaliation was immediate. She found herself effectively blacklisted for major studio networks, experiencing a total career freeze long before the concept of internet cancellation even existed. Her warnings about the machinery behind major media personas were largely dismissed at the time, yet they perfectly mirror the exact pressures and sudden disappearances we see unfolding in the modern landscape. The modern fallout looks vastly different from the blacklists of the past. Instead of fighting for screen time, some of the most powerful television hosts and media elites have chosen total retreat. After decades of branding themselves around public kindness and accessibility, major figures have abruptly sold off their American real estate portfolios, packed up and relocated to remote international farmhouses. They claim the sudden moves are due to shifting political climates, but the public isn't buying the narrative. The sudden moves coincide perfectly with unsealed document drops, federal convictions of longtime associates, and a growing public demand for accountability that a simple PR statement can no longer fix. What we are seeing is not an isolated incident or a temporary trend. The curtain is being pulled back from multiple directions at once, by independent filmmakers risking their careers, by comedians speaking with total impunity, and by legal unsealings that cannot be erased. The old system relied entirely on the public looking away, but the public is finally paying attention. What do you think is driving this sudden elite exodus to the quiet corners of the world? Are these public figures simply retiring, or are the decades of industry secrets finally catching up to them? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to stay tuned for the next breakdown as this story continues to unravel.